everybody. Got one of my best friends here, Sharkus.
How you doing, Jake?
Doing good, man. And we just chatting today about one of these social issues that we think is really, important to our next generation of younger children. Now, Shark, think back to your childhood. What stood out to you most with Mormon religion?
Wow, it's a big question to approach me with first. What stood out the most about it? Maybe the fact that I was just overwhelmed with the fact, or not the fact, but how everyone was telling me that it is the true church. And how they...
A lot of follow the leader type style, huh?
Yeah.
To where everyone else is involved, so why not? You're a part of everyone, kind of thing.
Yeah.
It's kind of weird, I wish kids had these, belief standard to where we let our kids decide for their own. Because, when they, when they get, to an older age and they realize all these things, and now everything pieces together, they're like, what? And is that kind of the situation you're in?
Not currently. Right now, if you're talking about, making a choice for myself on whether or not the church is true, that's something I did a couple of years ago. Right now, my parents are actually, one of them is not Mormon as well. So my father actually kind of came to the same realization that you're trying to bring up, things not always as it seems they are. Back to the question about what stood out to me the most about the church, kind of nothing stood out to me as a kid, because it's all just so normalized and conditioned in your brain that, that's your normal life. You're going there every week. It's just the normal routine. Nothing particularly stood out to me until I was older, when I could analyze it and look at it from an outsider perspective.
That's really cool. What stresses occurred from the separation of the religion? Has it affected like any relationships that you might have, or?
Yeah, so the separation of the religion. So me and myself, in the religion, I was active for a little bit while I wasn't trying. Like, I knew to myself that it wasn't true, and I was faking it when I went there. So I always thought that would be a big thing, is how stressful it would be when I were to separate, to tell my parents that I wasn't Mormon. But then when it actually happened, it was about a day of intense stress with my mom crying, and then my dad was actually really accepting about it, and we went out to lunch. So when I actually did the separation of the religion, it wasn't nearly as stressful as I thought it would be. Yeah, I would say the number one problem with the church is that they don't let you search for other answers. They're just kind of, as I was saying earlier, it's a confirmed fact as you're led to believe your whole life that this is the true thing. And if you even try to question other religions or philosophies, they just aren't accepting of that. They'll think it's wild. So yeah, that's kind of the number one flaw. It's like the church itself is a great institution, but the number one flaw is they don't want you to leave. They want you to stay and multiply and replenish and grow the church.
Yeah, and it kind of feels weird. I'm coming from a whole different perspective. I definitely could be wrong. Don't want to, put anyone down in this matter.
Yeah, with the current structure of the church, they really never give you an opportunity to make your own opinion if the church is true or not. And if you are making an opinion, if it is not true, then that is a sin in a way. But with the current structure of, you're grown into it, going to class as a little 1-year-old, and then you get baptized at 8, that's such a young age to be locked into a religion and baptized. I mean, of course, with other religions, it's very young as well, but... And then also the damning fact about how locked in they want you to be is just, going on a mission at age 18. As soon as you're out of high school, you're still a child. They try to send you out for 2 years across the world. And that also is what really does lock most people in, is after, 2 of their years of their whole life is dedicated to church thought. That's all they really have, and they can't abandon that, after. So they really don't allow you much opportunity at all to kind of question it. And then if you do question it, in my own personal experience, and not me, of course, because my 2 older brothers left the church, so for me, my parents were fine with it. But for my two older brothers, they were super distraught, crying. If one of my cousins leaves the church, it's a whole family conversation about, oh, he's leaving the church. They don't respect you for, thinking for yourself. Yeah.
Yeah. And, I think that's, one of the big thing about society in general, is that, different thought is considered as no. We can't have that at all. We need to think of it from, other perspective to where, that's what they formulated.
To quote a great thinker, Kanye West, I'm actually wearing his tour merch today. We're living in a simulation, and by a simulation, what Kanye West means, it's not an actual computer simulation we live in. It's all a preconditioned simulation where you're taught from day one and what to believe and what not to believe. Mm-hmm. Yeah, very, very true about how the church is like that, society is like that in a great way as well. Of course, everyone in society can be different, but yeah, you really are pretty much everywhere taught from a young age on what is true, what is good to believe, and what's not.
Yeah, definitely. But thank you so much for this interview, Shark, and love you, man.
Love you too, Jake. And by the way, I also go by Marcus or Shark.
That's a nickname that we've been calling him for years. So thank you very much to my viewers.